Welcome to the latest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network, the podcast 10 for 10, which brings you the week's top 10 compliance stories curated together in one podcast each week. Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, brings you the compliance professional stories you need to be aware of at the end of your busy week. Sit back and in 10 minutes, hear about the stories every compliance professional should be aware of. Every Saturday, 10 for 10 highlights the most important news, insights, and analysis for the compliance professional, all curated by the voice of compliance, Tom Fox. Get your weekly filling of compliance stories with 10 for 10. Hosted by Tom Fox. 10 for 10 is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. We are back with 10 for 10 for the week ending April 26th after being off for Easter weekend. First, I'm thrilled to announce the publication of my new book, Upping Your Game, How Compliance and Risk Management Move to 2030 and Beyond. In this book, I talk about how and why compliance needs to up their game now with the Trump suspension of investigations and enforcement under the FCPA. It's time for compliance professionals to step up and integrate compliance directly into business operations using AI as a tool to do so. I hope you will check this book out. It's available on Amazon.com. And thank you for indulging me and allowing me to talk about this very passionate project I've worked on for compliance professionals. Our first news story comes to us from the Financial Times, which reports that the EU has fined Apple and Meta a total of 700 million euros for antitrust violations. The regulators fined iPhone maker Apple for $500 million and ordered it to revise its App Store rules within 2 months following an investigation into whether Apple's rules prevented app developers from sending customers to offers outside its platform. The EU imposed a fine of 200 million euros on Meta and said the tech group must change its pay or consent model, which forces users to either consent to data tracking or pay a subscription fee for an ad-free experience. Under the Digital Marketers Act, a company can face penalties of up to 10% of global turnover, which could have been billions. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal Markets and Finance section, Dave Michaels reporting that the Justice Department has scaled back and basically eviscerated prosecutors' ability to bring criminal charges against crypto firms. The department will no longer bring charges against exchanges, dealers, mixing services, and wallet provider for their acts of their end users. According to a memo, prosecutors have sometimes charged crypto startups whose services were used by money launderers or persons in countries subject to U.S. sanctions. Obviously, this is a complete, total, and utter retreat by this administration from any enforcement of crypto, largely due to the amount of money crypto has dumped into the Trump administration. Next up, from the New York Times, the Eric Adams prosecution and dismissal continues to reverberate as 3 Manhattan federal prosecutors who worked on the corruption case said this week they would resign rather admit to falsehoods that they had engaged in wrongdoing when their office after it refused to abandon the case. The prosecutors were placed on administrative leave earlier this year by the Trump administration, and they were told that the only way to get their jobs back was to lie and say that wrongdoing had occurred. They indicated they will not confess wrongdoing where none was done. So, once again, a sword fair from the Trump DOJ. Our next story comes to us from Reuters, which reports that Trump is going to resue the law firm of Perkins Coie for, quote, egregious and unlawful acts, end quote, and cited the conduct of an unidentified member of the firm. So it's not clear if there's going to be a new lawsuit or add on to the current lawsuit, which is not doing well for the administration. Trump claims that the conduct of a firm is an antithesis of what the administration wants, and therefore they can make the law firm stop. So if you think about it, Trump now claims that he can sue law firms who take on clients that are being sued or criminally charged by the federal government. Very, very sad day and bad news. Trump also renewed his attack on the U.S. federal judge, saying that they were highly biased and wanting them thrown off the case. What is the bane of the existence in the corporate world? Well, for my money, it was meetings. Meetings. Useless meetings, meetings where no one was listening, meetings that droned on, meetings with no agenda, meetings. In his annual letter to shareholder, J.P. Morgan chief executive Jamie Dimon talked about meetings and avoiding management pablum. So kill them, he said. If they have to happen, make sure they have a hard start and end time and a clear purpose. Organize them so they're only attended by relevant participants. You don't have to be nice to invite people to meetings who don't have to be there. And when you get to the meeting, act like you're interested. Stay off your cell phone. Don't text. Meetings could be an email. Meetings could be a phone call. Imagine that. So maybe something will be done about meetings, although, frankly, I doubt it. Next up, a very interesting article from CIO entitled, I'll just read it. When AI writes the laws, UAE's bold move forces a rethink on compliance and the human touch. The United Arab Emirates has taken a bold step by becoming the first country to officially use AI to help it draft, review, and update its laws. The initiative, called the Regulatory Intelligence Offering, will be powered by an advanced AI system. This will bring together federal and local laws, court rulings, government procedures, and public service data into one massive platform to track real-time impact on the laws and society. The goal is to speed up lawmaking by 70% by letting AI do the heavy lifting. Next up from Bitcoin News, more fallout from the Trump administration's retreat from any sort of enforcement or oversight of Bitcoin. But in good news, Bitcoin India goes full compliance. And Bitcoin ignited a compliance revolution in India's crypto market, enforcing full KYC re-verification to tighten security, align with AML laws, and redefine user accountability. It announced a mandate regarding Know Your Customer for all users in India, regardless of when they join the platform. The notice follows a broader push to comply with India's AML regulations and comes as Binance looks to reinforce account security standards literally across the board. Next up from the Wall Street Journal business section, Sherry Quinn reports that a U.S. House committee has urged 2 U.S. banks to withdraw from the contemporary Ampertex technology planned listing in Hong Kong. This is a Chinese battery giant, and the committee members expressed significant concerns over the bank's involvement. This is a new opening in the trade war that Trump has initiated, and if U.S. financial institutions and financial services institutions are not part of offerings, that's certainly going to negatively impact their profit structures and their ability to do business in places outside the U.S. Of course, the fallout will be other financial institutions and financial service companies will step in to fill the void. And the Trump administration does not seem to understand that or indeed even want to acknowledge this, that gaps are coming into place, are being filled rather. We saw this in the Russian sanctions is probably the most prominent example. But with this trade war with China, it's going to be not only a long haul, but a complete integration of the American economic model, because the model we currently have, or at least we did up until January 20 of 2025, was based on worldwide trade, which the Trump administration does not want to seem to engage in. This is Tom Fox again. 10 for 10 is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. I'd also urge you to check out the Daily Compliance News, which posts every week from Monday to Friday, where I give 4 curated stories of bribery, corruption, and compliance events that will allow you to help you start your day as well. So check out the Daily Compliance News and subscribe or rate and review to both 10 for 10 and the Daily Compliance News. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency. Finally, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, I am preparing a new season of Adventures in Compliance where I go through the 4 novels of Sherlock Holmes. Hear it on the Compliance Podcast Network.